Welcome to the Calculus, a collection of micro lectures, video lessons, and sample exercises. Let's compute the limit of sin x as x approaches to 0 using table of values. For this video, we are going to solve for the limit of the trigonometric function given here sin x as x approaches to 0 using table of values. Of course, we already know the limit of this, and you could even try your calculators there. But let us try to illustrate the limit of this said trigonometric function in order for us to see that the identified limit is really correct. So to show our function here is of course sin x. So we are to determine the limit of sin x as x approaches to 0. Take note that x here corresponds to the angle of the trigonometric function sine. Hence, this could be interpreted or represented into two forms, whether by radians or by degrees. Okay. By radians means we can use here the pi's, and by degrees, of course, we can use here value in degrees. But this time, as in illustration of the table, we are going to use here the idea of radians, but we are going to use here specific values closer to 0. Okay, so we're going to use here values from -1 to 1, and we're going to see if the limit from the left is equal to the limit from the right. So let us start here from the limit on the left, or the limit from the left. Let us try the values again. You can always try or express this in either both radians or degrees, but the limit will still be the same. We're just going to use here the values, the real numbers from -1 to 0 from the left and +1 to 0 from the right to illustrate the limit of this function. So we'll have here, as mentioned, -1. We'll have -0.5. As we look closer going into the value of 0, we will have here -0.1 and so on and so forth. You can try your calculators there. Again, let's treat these values as radians. Okay? Let's treat this as radians, but instead of using pi, we're going to have the values -1 as radian and again closer to 0. If you're going to plug in these values in your calculator, in short, sine of -1, you will get an approximate value in 4 decimal places. You have -0.8415. Approximately, this value rounded off into 4 decimal places. By this value alone, you cannot tell the limit of sin x as x approaches to 0 from the left. So let's continue with the rest of the values. Again, using these values, plugging them in your calculator. Make sure that your calculators are in radians. You will have -0.4794. Approximately this value in 4 decimal places. You can see the trend that the value is even getting higher. In terms of negative, it gets higher. Okay, so let's continue with the rest of the values. So we have -0.1. Again, in your calculator, approximately, you'll get the value of -0.0998. Now, to see the value further, let's add 3 more values, getting closer to 0. Let's have -0.01. Let's also try -0.001 and even -0.0001. Okay, so obviously these values gets closer to 0. So as we look into this, you plug in these values to your calculator. Again, make sure that your calculator are in radian measures. So you will get the value here of -0.0100. Okay, as you plug in 0.001 or the negative of it, you will have -0.0010. So we'll have the same value of x and f of x, and then you will have here the final form. We have -0.0001. As you can see that as x gets closer to 0, your f of x gets closer to a value which is also 0. Okay? In short, this is the limit. This is the limit of sin x as x approaches to 0 from the left. For the limit of this be or exist, we need to make sure that the limit from the right is also equal to 0. So you will have the values from the right of 0. And we are going to use the positive values 1, 0.5, 0.1, and to mirror the values we used from the left, you have your negative, mirror, you have 0.01, 0.001, and 0.0001. Plugging this in your calculators, you will get the values which are actually just mirrors of the values of your f of x, only positive. So you will have here 0.8415 approximately in 4 decimal places. For 0.5, plugging that in your calculator, you have 0.4794. For 0.1, you will have here 0.0998. So you obviously, it's the positive of the first table. And you will have here the next value, again plugging that in your calculator, you have positive 0.0100, here 0.0010, and 0.0001. And then, as you can see, that as x approaches to 0, your f of x also approaching to the same value of 0. Again, this is the limit of sine x as x approaches to 0 from the right. Since the limit of sine x as x approaches 0 from the left is equal to the limit of sine x as the limit of sine x as x approaches 0 from the right, and they are both equal to 0, this is actually the limit of the entire given trigonometric function sine x as x approaches to 0. As mentioned earlier, if you're going to try degrees measurement in your calculators, or even try the common regions such as pi over 2, pi over 4, pi over 3, pi over 6, we will have the same trend as the limit of the said trigonometric function will get closer to 0 as x approaches to 0. We're using this table of values to illustrate this so that we could use this further in our future endeavors. Thank you very much for watching. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe now!